We bring you the lunch edition of NBC News, and you are with me, Evelis Chingambi. Our top stories. President Mutharika stresses Malawi's commitment to strengthening bilateral relationships with the People's Republic of China. Parliament approves a special committee to conduct a fresh inquiry into the Chikangawa plane crash. And in sports, Malawi rated as the most disciplined and promising country in darts development in Africa at the just-ended darts tournament in Kenya. Thank you for joining us. Now the news in detail. President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika has reaffirmed Malawi's commitment to strengthening bilateral relations with the People's Republic of China. He made these remarks at Kamuzu Palace during a courtesy call from the Chinese ambassador to Malawi, Lu Xu. Mai Tumodzi reports.
President Mutharika told the Chinese ambassador to Malawi, Lu Xu, that government of Malawi attaches great importance to its long-standing partnership with China, outlining the progress made since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries in 2007. He expressed gratitude for China's continued support to Malawi across key sectors, including infrastructure development, agriculture, health, education and human resource development, which he said have contributed to the country's socio-economic growth. Professor Mutharika further outlined his administration's priorities, emphasizing economic recovery, job creation, especially for young people, and improved service delivery as central to his development agenda. He said that in the short term, his government is focusing on addressing challenges under the 4Fs and M framework, which includes food security, fertilizer availability, foreign exchange reserves, fuel and medicines, with a commitment to deliver tangible results within the first 12 months. The president also called for deeper cooperation between Malawi and China in key sectors such as mining, energy, irrigation, mechanization and agro-processing, while encouraging Chinese investors to explore opportunities in manufacturing and tourism. The Malawi leader emphasized Malawi's commitment to the One China policy and expressed readiness to benefit from initiatives such as the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation and the Belt and Road Initiative aimed at enhancing economic cooperation and people-to-people exchanges. Speaking after the meeting, Ambassador Lu Xu said the discussions focused on strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries, with both sides exchanging views on how best to enhance practical cooperation for mutual benefit. Maim Tumodzi, NBC News, Lilongwe.
First Lady, Madam Professor Gertrude Mutharika, says the digital revolution has turned digital literacy into a necessity and not an option. She made the remarks at the White House in Washington, D.C., United States of America, during the inaugural Fostering the Future Together Global Coalition Summit. Details on this report by Mai Tumodzi.
In her keynote address titled Strides in Education, Science and Technology, the Case of Malawi, First Lady Madam Professor Gertrude Mutharika highlighted the success of the Building Education Foundations through Innovation and Technology BEFIT program, which Malawi has been implementing since 2023. She told her counterparts and delegates to the summit that the BEFIT program is a national initiative designed to transform early grade education through safe, inclusive and personalized digital learning.
The BEFIT program is a national initiative designed to transform early grade education through safe, inclusive, and personalized digital learning. At the heart of this program is an innovative tablet-enabled learning system which is self-paced. The technology allows the children to learn through structured and engaging lessons in literacy and numeracy. To ensure accessibility, even in the most remote communities, the program uses solar-powered systems, which have been installed directly in all implementing schools.
The First Lady said the goal is to ensure that 3.8 million children in early primary grades gain the foundational literacy and numeracy skills they need to succeed in a modern world.
Our goal is to ensure that 3.8 million children in early primary grades gain the foundational literacy and numeracy skills they need to succeed in a modern world. And also to ensure leveling the play field by engaging the children in both urban and rural communities. The impact of this program is very encouraging. There is a significant rise in school enrollment because children are excited to learn. For many of our learners, the BFIT tablet is their first window into the modern world.
On her part, First Lady of the USA, Melania Trump, urged nations to accelerate efforts that can positively impact progress and foster a brighter future for children around the world.
Our coalition's mission is to empower children by providing greater access to technology and education. This is a historic moment in time. Our key driver to cultivate the skills young people need to be successful in this rapidly evolving world. Fostering the future together, we'll achieve this by creating innovative learning programs, advocating for supportive education policies, sponsoring new tech-focused legislation, and building strong partnerships between the public and private sectors.
The inaugural Fostering the Future Together Global Summit was held in Washington, D.C., marking a new era of international cooperation in education technology. Madam Zachitika attended the summit alongside 45 other first spouses from across the globe on invitation of U.S. First Lady Melania Trump. Maim Tumodzi, MBC News.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Samir Suleiman, says the Business Committee of the House has approved a special committee to conduct a fresh inquiry into the Chikangawa plane crash. Suleiman said the committee composes 4 members from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, 3 members from the Malawi Congress Party, MCP, 1 member each from UTM, UDF, PP, and 3 from independent legislators. However, some members expressed dismay over the composition of the committee, saying it does not reflect a fair representation of the membership in the House. This led to the suspension of 2 opposition members who did not comply with the Speaker's order on the matter. Reacting to the development, Leader of the House, Japi Mohango, said it is unfortunate that the opposition MCP raised such a concern.
Those that were raising the issue about the composition of the inquiry were themselves part of the business committee that decided how the committee was going to be structured. And therefore, the committee has been structured in such a way that it has taken into account the numerical strength of each party in this House, the configuration. So the Democratic Progressive Party, because it's bigger and has got more numbers, has provided 4 names. And these names came from the parties themselves. The Malawi Congress Party that is complaining submitted its own names, 3 of them. And that was the decision of the Business Committee. Then other parties, United Democratic Front, UTM, and PP, because they've got more than 3 members each, were supposed to submit a name each. And they've done, and they're not complaining. Independents, as it were, have got 71 members in this House. They were supposed to provide 3 names. And those was at the discretion of the Speaker, and the Speaker decides. Now, what was the consideration? We were looking at the competences of these individuals, skills that these individuals possess. This would be a very specialized inquiry. So we are looking at people that individuals or members that were going to add value in the inquiry. So it was just a matter of picking individuals just because for the sake of picking. No, I wanted to make sure that we're getting that people that would come out of this inquiry with something that would make sense to Malawians. So basically that was the consideration. So I'm surprised that the Malawi Congress Party is complaining. They're complaining about the independents, but the independents fall under the charge of the Speaker. So the Speaker decides.
Meanwhile, Leader of Opposition Simplex Chicholabanda says MCP has resolved not to participate in the inquiry. Government has achieved an 84% redemption rate under the Farm Inputs Subsidy Program FSIP in all regions of the country. The Minister of Agriculture, Irrigation and Water Development, Rosa Mbelizi, said this in Parliament when she delivered a ministerial statement on the 2025-2026 growing season FSIP implementation in the country. Belize said the redemption rate achieved this year is a rise from 67% recorded last season. Beatrice Mwape reports.
Delivering a ministerial statement in the National Assembly, Rose Mbilizi says the FISIP program has achieved a fair distribution of farm inputs this year, with the southern region achieving 86% compared to 38% last year. The eastern region is at 83% compared to 40% last year. The central region is at 84% compared to last year's 80%, and the northern region is standing at 83% compared to 90% last year. Belize says as of 13th March 2026, out of the intended 1.1 million beneficiaries, over 920,000 beneficiaries have redeemed their inputs, achieving an 84% redemption rate. The minister has attributed the successes to the decisive guidance on fair distribution of the FISIP program from President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika.
This is a substantial improvement over the same period last season, when redemption stood at 67%. Mr. Speaker, sir, it should be noted very clearly that performance at regional and district levels is much better this year than the last season, as no district this year is below 72% redemption, while last season, same time, 12 districts were below 50%. With at least one, which is the least, I should say, Mulanje district at 27%.
The minister has, however, expressed disappointment on cases of corruption which marred the program, highlighting that the program was mismanaged by the previous government. She says currently government has registered 32 cases of corruption involving some officials from the police, National Registration Bureau, ICT personnel, local leaders, Ministry of Agriculture officials and vendors, and that some of these cases are in court. She has since stressed that government will ensure that everyone who was involved in corrupt practices under the program will not be spared but brought to book. On the other hand, the minister says currently there is an outstanding balance of over 31,000 metric tons of fertilizer, where 4,000 metric tons are from the Eastbridge deal, another 7,000 metric tons from the private sector, and SFFRFM, which used the FISIP budget of 25.5 billion kwacha to procure tobacco intended to be exchanged for over 19,000 metric tons of NPK fertilizer under an agreement signed with Eastbridge Company during the previous regime. She has since added that at present, 14 million kilograms of tobacco under the Eastbridge deal is stuck with the Ministry of Agriculture and SFFRFM.
Minister of Transport and Public Works, Jabi Muhango, has assured Malawians that road conditions will noticeably improve by December. Speaking in Parliament, Muhango explained that the newly introduced fuel levy will provide the necessary funding to rehabilitate the country's worsening road infrastructure. He assured the House that government is geared to improving damaged roads to enhance public safety and transport efficiency.
We are coming from a very, very problematic past, where due to the unavailability of resources, particularly the fuel levy, roads for the past 4 years never got the attention they deserve. So much so that most of our roads have deteriorated to levels that are unprecedented. As a government, we've taken strides to make sure that we reverse that trend. The first step that government took was to reintroduce the automatic fuel mechanism. Because every country in the world, even in the United States, for them to build roads, they depend on the fuel levy. There's no any other resource apart from the fuel levy. Of course, there will be other traditional ways of doing it, but the ultimate resource available is fuel levy. So we have reintroduced the fuel levy on instruction of the president, and that's one of the major decisions that the government took to make sure that we start rebuilding our roads. So from now up to December, you see lots of changes in our road management. We want to make sure that most of the roads that have been damaged have been rehabilitated or maintained.
The government of Malawi has received a third and final consignment of relief items from the government of Zimbabwe as part of ongoing humanitarian assistance. The latest consignment includes 330,000 metric tons of maize aimed at supporting food insecure households and communities affected by the recent heavy rains. Speaking during the handover ceremony, Minister of Foreign Affairs George Chabonda said the donation will go a long way in complementing government's efforts in ensuring that no life is lost to hunger. Details in this report by Jinsisi Moyo.
Zimbabwe pledged humanitarian support package to Malawi following the declaration of a state of disaster in 28 districts by President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika due to prolonged dry spells that severely impacted food production in the country. The first consignment was delivered on 27 January 2026. Speaking during the handover ceremony of the final consignment, Minister of Foreign Affairs George Chabonda expressed gratitude to the government of Zimbabwe for responding positively to the emergency call.
Once the appeal was made by Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika that we have a difficult situation here, they took up the matter, came out with the first consignment, came with the second consignment, and now the third one. We are most grateful. And I'm sure, which is the case, this will deepen further our relationship with the people, the government, and the people of Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe's ambassador to Malawi, Nancy Sangweme, underscored her government's commitment to supporting Malawi during times of need.
I know it's going to go a long way in helping the people of Malawi. The people of Malawi and Zimbabwe, we are one family, as I always say. Bilaterally, our relations are very strong, and I know the people are going to be happy, at least to make sure to see that what they've been waiting for is arrived.
Chief Secretary to the government, Justin Saidi, who was also present at the handover ceremony, commended the government of Zimbabwe for the timely assistance, adding that the recent heavy rains the country experienced have left many households in dire need of food aid. Jinsisi Moyo, MBC News, Lilongwe.
You're watching MBC News and you are with me, Evelis Chingambe. A reminder of our top stories. President Mutharika stresses Malawi's commitment to strengthening bilateral relations with the People's Republic of China. Parliament approves a special committee to conduct a fresh inquiry into the Chikangawa plane crash. And in sports, Malawi rated as the most disciplined and promising country in darts development in Africa at the just ended darts tournament in Kenya. Welcome back. Thousands of students in private tertiary institutions across Malawi have been thrown into uncertainty after education regulators banned 2 international examination boards. The National Council for Higher Education, NJ, and the Technical, Entrepreneurial and Vocational Education and Training Authority, TVETA, say qualifications offered under Business Management Education Center, BIMEC, and the American Institute of Extended Studies are not recognized in Malawi. The decision has left many students questioning the fate of their time, money, and future careers. Beatrice Mape has the full story.
For 2 years, 21-year-old Zachitika Kawonga has been studying public health at Lilongwe Institute of Science and Technology, LIST. He was expected to graduate this June. But 4 months before completing his studies, Kawonga received shocking news. The examination boards responsible for his qualification are no longer recognized in Malawi. The diploma he hoped would open doors to employment and financial independence is now considered invalid. Kawonga says the development has left him mentally distressed and uncertain about his future.
Psychologically, I was very affected to see how the message was being released. The time which we have been spending studying on our programs, that means we have just wasted. Even in terms of finances, we just wasted.
Kawonga is not alone. 23-year-old Priscilla Jibudula, raised by a single mother who works as a hospital attendant, says her family has sacrificed greatly for her education.
The long way that I've taken and the time that I've wasted just because of the boards that have been banned, and for my parents to understand this situation is very hard because as of now they've wasted a lot of money, and to me I can say that I can't really connect myself with my parents just to understand this situation.
The two are among thousands of students affected after Nje and Tiveta banned qualifications offered under BMake and AEIS in February. Reports indicate that more than 20 private tertiary institutions across the country have been affected. At Lilongwe Institute of Science and Technology alone, over 2,000 students, including those currently studying, about to graduate, and some already employed, are caught in the uncertainty. Registrar of the institution, James Komichi, says the college has been offering programs under the two examination boards since 2022 and was surprised by the regulator's decision.
For us to start offering the services under these boards, it's not just something that you can just get up and start offering. You need to undergo the legal process that is supposed to be undertaken with this board. You first apply for assessment. They need to come here to assess you, and then you need at least to fill some documents or some forms. After evaluation, then they give you or they give the institution a go-ahead as a center.
Education expert Limbani Sabato has commended Nche and Tiveta for enforcing standards in higher education. He says the rise of unregulated institutions has damaged the country's academic reputation, and regulatory action is necessary to restore credibility. However, Sabato stresses that authorities must engage affected institutions to ensure that students are not unfairly punished.
We need really to ensure that the National Council for Higher Education and TVETA, they enforce the regulations. At the same time, the professional examining boards must comply with the required registration or policy direction, so that at the end of the day, we should have a win-win situation.
Meanwhile, officials at BMake have obtained a court injunction stopping the ban from taking effect. We tried to seek a comment from Tiveta, but we were unsuccessful, with officials saying they cannot speak on the matter because it is currently before the courts. By the time of this broadcast, the National Council for Higher Education was yet to respond to our questionnaire. But the bigger question remains: who is responsible? The institutions that offered the programs or the regulators who approved them for years? For now, the fate for the qualifications remains uncertain. Beatrice Mwabe, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Minister of Natural Resources Patricia Whiskes has called on African countries to stand together and demand money under the Loss and Damage Fund if they are to fully mitigate the impact of climate change. The minister was speaking in Lilongwe during the 5th African Regional Conference on Loss and Damage. The minister said despite that the fund was set up for the same purpose, African countries continue to bear the brunt of climate change with little or no support at all from the fund. From Lilongwe, Patrick Dambula reports.
Just some days ago, over 10 people lost their lives, with hundreds of others being displaced as a result of persistent rains in the Lower Shiri. In Kenya, floods have killed close to 100 people, while thousands have been displaced. These are a few examples of natural disasters which African countries are facing due to climate change. It is against such a background that Malawi and a number of African countries have gathered in Lilongwe for the 5th African Regional Conference on Loss and Damage. The gathering aims at discussing ways on how African countries can access funds from the Loss and Damage Fund so as to mitigate climate change. Minister of Natural Resources Patricia Whiskes says African countries need to speak with one voice so that they get compensated, because the worst polluters are the developed countries, yet African countries are suffering the worst consequences of climate change. The Loss and Damage Fund was designed to address loss and damage and support communities affected by climate change. At the moment, Malawi is applying for $20 million from the fund.
We have the burden of having to deal with issues of climate change, yet these issues of greenhouse emissions are not propelled by Africans. So what we must do as Africa is that we need to unite and speak with one voice to ensure that African countries begin now to benefit from this particular fund, to ensure that the people, the Africans that have suffered loss and damage as a result of climate disasters, are actually able to benefit and get compensation on the loss that they have suffered.
Director of Programs at the Climate Justice Alliance, Charles Mungi, says African countries need much more resources from the developed countries rather than what has been committed to the Loss and Damage Fund, because the needs are immense.
Let nobody tell us there's no money in the world. A lot is already being spent in Ukraine. A lot is already being spent, or should I say wasted, in Iran and the war in Iran. Yet people are not getting to see the urgency of dealing with climate change. Well, we can actually negotiate with each other as countries that are actually fighting, but we cannot negotiate with nature. So when the wrath of nature comes, it will first of all hit Africa like it is hitting us, but indeed it's going to catch up with everybody. So we therefore must act as a global community in ensuring that we capitalize that loss and damage fund, so that we're able to help our people, particularly those that are impacted by the effects of climate change.
The annual forum has evolved into a hub of aligning African policy, strengthening technical capacity, and amplifying frontline voices within global processes, such as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change negotiations. Patrick Dambula, MBC News, Lilongwe.
And now in sports, Malawi has earned a high rating as the most disciplined and most promising country in darts development in Africa. This comes after Team Malawi finished second at the World Darts Federation qualifiers for Africa in Kenya this week. Details with our reporter, Foster Maulidi.
The Malawi darts team returned home on Monday after an impressive second-place finish in the World Darts Continental Qualifier. DAMU President Peter Kaira described the tournament as a major breakthrough for Malawi, as other countries have shown interest in visiting for talent exchange and development programs, including according Malawi an opportunity to host the 2026 International Darts Schools League this September. Kaira says the association has gained valuable experience both on the board and administratively, which will help in developing the sport in the country.
It's an eye-opener, and we have learned a lot of things. From now on, players will not rest. Well, there are so many competitions coming up. We have 3 official invitations. Kenya is inviting us to go for a tournament in Mombasa. Uganda is inviting us. Tanzania is also inviting us. When they looked at us, they felt they can have the best training, best opposition from us. So we are not going to rest. Government has shown that they're supporting us, and the youth are in schools. We have got to go back to the schools, explain to them what we need. Definitely they'll give us players and we'll train them. You know, the game of darts, you don't take 2 months to train a player how to play darts.
Uganda won the tournament and qualified for the world stage, while Malawi fell short despite an impressive debut, as only the winner progresses to the world stage. The Malawi team comprised of 4 male players, Rogers Zako, Simeon Kaonga, Steve Kamfosi, and Kanejin Kandawire, while Alice Shawa and Memole Katema were female representatives at the tournament. Foster Maulidi, MBC Sport.
And that's it from our newsroom this afternoon. A recap of our top stories before we leave. President Mutharika stresses Malawi's commitment to strengthening bilateral relations with the People's Republic of China. Parliament approves a special committee to conduct a fresh inquiry into the Chikangawa plane crash. And in sports, Malawi rated as the most disciplined and promising country in darts development in Africa at the just-ended darts tournament in Kenya. For more updates, visit MBC Digital on Facebook, X and Instagram. You've been with me, Evelis Chingambe. Thanks for watching and good afternoon.